Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Paul Boynton. Paul Boynton is co-founder and chief operating officer of Company Search Incorporated, aka CSI, a next-generation platform for business intelligence and business analytics. Paul's expertise as a developer, implementer, and provider of information emerged from decades of utilizing data-driven decisions, servicing industry leaders, multinationals, and subject matter experts in the corporate insurance space. Driving programs for operational and risk management results are career hallmarks, facilitating emerging market sustainability and growth for the likes of Dell, McDonald's, Walmart, and leaders in the commodities and chemicals industries. A testament to a career that secures risk-sharing partnerships to facilitate large capital investments. Paul has worked on all sides of the insurance matrix, learning the trade as an underwriter and analyst with FCIA, negotiating reinsurance treaties with Willis Faber, and retail corporate relationships with Johnson & Higgins. Well, good afternoon, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Brian. It's great to see you again. I really appreciate you having me back.
Absolutely, my friend. I appreciate it. And you're still in Dallas. I'm still in Kansas City, and we probably talk about barbecue rivalry or football, but let's get into something more exciting, the stuff that you're doing right now. If I could, I'm going to jump into your first question. Your career path spans underwriting at FCIA, negotiating reinsurance at Willis Faber, and direct client relationships at Johnson & Higgins, culminating in the creation of CSI. Could you walk us through how these experiences shape your vision for building a next-generation business intelligence platform?
So, my first job out of college was at the FCI management company, which is a export credit insurance company. And that's really where it started for me. And I got involved with international business. But, I was a green visor underwriter, right? So it was my first look at, operations, financials of foreign companies. And I did that for a few years and, understood that process. And I jumped over into the reinsurance side of the business, which is a step removed. Reinsurers, insure insurance companies, right? So reinsurance treaties are the backline of insurance risk takers. And yeah, so my background in the trade credit insurance business played a big role in our team that was placing reinsurance treaties for various underwriters of export credit and political risk insurance. So did that for a few years. And then this is all in New York. Ended up working at Johnson & Higgins, which has become Marsh & McLennan quite a while ago. But, this is now the late 90s. And I was part of a national resource team in the trade political risk insurance area. So, kind of think of it like in those days, we were sort of like a modern day platform instead of looking on the CSI platform that you do at 2025. In those days, you would pick up the phone and you call actual people to come in and provide expertise on lanes of business that they didn't have the expertise to do. So we would come in and help them get their clients taken care of in what we did. And ultimately, I did work for Fortune 100 companies. Really, my gig was to help our clients do more business, do more trade, do boots on the ground operations in those countries with the support of insurance capital. By going through those experiences, the insurance companies didn't want to get involved with it. And those, sort of surface level of due diligence you do on counterparties doesn't really cut it when you're talking about these different Latin America or Asian countries. So we would have to go the extra mile and bring these capital providers on site to see these counterparties, learn all about them, do a deep dive behind the curtain look at the owners, at operations, at the business cycle, all that stuff. So we could, develop the trust you needed to get a deal done, to get a new partner. And that's really the passion of that next level due diligence. That is the behind what we're trying to do here with this PSI platform. Provide that level of due diligence, but you don't have to get on a plane and you don't have to get information yourself that we can provide for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That backstory there, you've got just a plethora of experience in this space, insurance, insurtech, et cetera. But I like the fact that right out of college, you were an underwriter, right? And you moved into reinsurance. And then you have national, international experience, a lot of work extensively in the due diligence space. So I really appreciate that. I know all that contributes to what you do today with your CSI platform. Paul, you mentioned that strategic insights often stem from local partners and human relationships. How do personal connections and on the ground knowledge complement CSI's data driven analytics?
We do a lot of the data points of due diligence, right? So background, operations, ownership, performance, media. We have a GV with Dow Jones. So we have the media, what's going on in the public space with whatever kind of party you're working for. Credit opinions. We do credit ratings that we provide in countries that Moody's and the S&Ps don't provide, but they actually acknowledge our credit opinions and ratings and use them. And, we do industry and market analytics. So we're not replacing a person, but we're trying to provide gaps of info that maybe we're going to have that you can't get elsewhere. But the insight that you're not looking at, maybe you should be looking at as you ascertain and analyze risk. So we're not going to be that person that takes you around the factory or takes you around a customer. But what we want to be is a tool that can help you get far enough that maybe you can get it done with a couple of Zoom calls with, your local partners and you don't have to jump on the plane. Or, we have enough information that gives you enough insight that you trust that you're making the right decision.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. And there's just so much data these days to glean through when you're doing due diligence, as an example. But, humans can make mistakes and machines can too, but machines are less likely to if they follow their proper programming and algorithms, et cetera. But I like how you are leveraging business intelligence and those insights to fill the gaps to help, again, that partnership, as you would say. I really appreciate that. Paul, you've stated that AI is only as powerful as the data behind it, and CSI emphasizes a strong data quality index. How do you maintain data integrity while scaling AI driven features? And what's next for CSI's AI roadmap?
Thanks for prompting that one because that's an exciting thing about us. So, we look at that term AI, because we've been in that machine learning business for almost 10 years now. So we've been here in AI for a long time, and we kind of look at that phrase and go, it's super overused and all that, right? But yeah, it is different. It's totally different now than we were doing machine learning models 10 years ago. And we have a large language model module on our site now. It's called ZABA. And ZABA is our AI mode that is extracting info just from our data pool, right? So when you go on Grok or ChatGPT or something, it's extracting data from the whole internet, except our data pool. So if you ask, Grok about textile mills in Turkey that, make jeans like Levi Strauss, and they've been around 10 years and they're profitable to something like that. It's not really going to have info on the different textile mills in Turkey. It'll give you different websites to look at and research. Whereas our database and ZABA has every textile mill in Turkey in our database, and it will come back to say, based on your criteria, these are some things you need to be thinking about. And these are 5 good ones that you may want to be doing business with. And so we'll give our subscriber everything, financials, performance, contact info, the whole gig. So it's very cool, very insightful tool that we're excited about. It's new. It's going to improve, but for now, the results have been very encouraging. And these are things that are difficult to manage because, we're a little company. We're going to need to get some more investment and all that stuff. We're always doing that balance between getting good domain expertise with skilled data scientists so we can scale in a way that, anomaly detection and analytics scales along with our data. We have many terabytes of data. So it's always a challenge, but we're going to firmly be in that AI space in the business intelligence world.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The last time we talked about this, you did talk about the work you've been doing in machine learning the past 10 years, but so much has changed as you highlighted. And your LLM behind your platform, ZABA, is really powerful around providing sound financial data behind the research that you're doing. But you did mention you're still going through some growing pains, which is a good thing, right? It's a good problem to have. You're figuring out your way and how to improve and having to add some data scientists, et cetera, to really make your platform even more robust. So I appreciate the insights there. Paul, the last question I have for you today, there are many real world examples of hidden ownership links that could trigger regulatory violations under the new rule called BIS 50%. How is CSI's proprietary data and entity mapping tools help compliance teams get ahead of regulatory complexity?
Thanks for asking that one, because that is it's a new rule that's implemented by the new administration, and it's a very important rule, and it's something that really emphasizes the need to do that next level of due diligence, particularly in ownership penetration. So the common example is Vietnamese companies that are ultimately owned by Chinese companies or Chinese individuals. So ultimately, if that ownership is over 50%, the Vietnamese company will be subject to Chinese tariffs. So you have to do the due diligence to not only understand who owns your supplier, but who owns the owner and who their subsidiaries are, who their affiliates are, and who owns those companies. And that is an area of that we are probably the industry leader in the ownership penetration research. And along with that, we're very strong in the import-export trade information. So when you're looking at information that's provided by customs houses, we obviously have for, I think it's 33 countries now, but we also have trade information on countries that don't provide customs info because we have so many data points. So every company in China that does business in the U.S., we know who they're selling to, and we know who they're buying from. So we'll have that info from their customs agency. So those are areas where our site, that's just one or two little examples of the data on our site that is easy to use and provides a lot of value.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't know that you had that much knowledge and depth and experience in ownership penetration, research, trade information, international, obviously. But this new BIS 50% rule is important. It does help highlight, those companies that are maybe owned by another entity. And your example here was a Vietnamese company that had maybe more than 50% ownership by China. That's obviously going to change how the tariffs work. And with your research, your platform, you're able to provide that level of information more quickly and more accurately. So I appreciate that. And Paul, it was such a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
I appreciate it, Brian.
Bye for now.